Hello, War the Visions fans. I'm Jackie Fox, and while I had some things to say about units that got cut or upgrades that got cut due to the Road to Worldwide that still don't appear to be on the schedule, and how much that is kind of upsetting for me, I, on the other hand, am super hype for the way that this collaboration has already started to play out for reasons both inside and outside of the collaboration. I mean, first, for one, and I hope to evoke some of this by using Lul's versions of, lo-fi versions of the Final Fantasy VIII music, because the Final Fantasy VIII music that's being used in the game is just fucking banging. Great selections. Joy to listen to. Turn your music up for once and just kind of enjoy some nostalgia if you played Final Fantasy VIII and loved it. Also, another thing that is really cool that I can't tell you almost anything about, just due to how even saying the chapter name would be spoilers in a lot of ways, potentially, but, wow, the first part of the new story, chapter literally had me crying in bed first thing in the morning today. It was fucking ridiculous, but, like, my favorite part of the story has an implied culmination, and it happened exactly like the way that I wanted it to, which was exactly like no one in this scenario wanted it to happen, and it was fucking glorious. And like my eyes came tears of joy watching that scene. So if you aren't current in the story or you need to do a little bit of catching up, the story for this week is fucking great and involves some really great voice acting. I haven't even seen the whole week. I literally just saw the first part of it. I haven't seen the whole, 10 or however many scenes we're going to get in this set of 10 missions, but, I've only done mission 1, for real. But that thing slapped. But none of that is really what I'm here to talk about today. Today, I want to talk about Rinoa. Because Rinoa is going to be our new free unit, and you might be asking yourself, do I build her? And having 4 accounts for myself, my Earth account is obviously building her, but I'm also kind of wondering if my other account should as well. So, what are we going to get here? So this girl, she seems to have a lot of attack activation time down, which is good because she's a caster. So it seems like she's going to be potentially getting pretty close to instant cast with a lot of these things, which is interesting. But also a bit of AoE resistance here on the Dream ability. 10% magic feels a little low, but she does good stuff. In terms of stats, her stats are alright. One thing I do want to point out about them, though, because they're kind of what you would expect in a lot of ways, except for this, her resistances equal out to a goose egg. She is completely neutral, well, not neutral in that they're varied, but they average out to be completely neutral resistances, both physical and magical. Although she is, of course, worse to physical than she is to magical, which kind of follows the ethos of a lot of healer supports, because that's what she is. She follows that design philosophy pretty darn well. But it is surprising to see a unit with basically 0 resistances this day and age, because usually they average out to be positive even for non-super defensive units. She is a 90 cost unit, so we're not talking about as big and bad as the biggest and baddest units out there right now. But let's look at her support abilities. Undesired Power is going to be the upgraded one, so 24% magic, great to see it. Love to see it. 200% decrease activation times, that's also pretty great. And AoE resistance 15. Stacking in with that 15 AoE resistance from the Dream Awakening is going to give her kind of a base of 30. And mine's already rocking quite a bit. And she's level 89 or level 70, maybe level 81 by now, I don't know. Clandestine Reading gives her Spirit Penetration, which is going to be cool if you wanted to do more damage, but also some defense. That's nice. Benevolent Love, she is quite a good healer, but I'm not necessarily sure that you run this. You definitely run Undesired Power, but if you are like trying to do a lot more healing, this is going to be a helpful one. Red Mage Lore she doesn't necessarily need, but the increased magic damage is going to also be helpful, especially if you're going for kind of a damage build. HP and Magic, just kind of useful if you want to stack some more of that in there. And then you can get Spirit, so you can get Defense and or Spirit, and a bit more magic resistance if you're building more into that, but I don't really highly recommend it. I would probably go with these two in most situations, or maybe Grimoire Keeper's Mastery, but definitely Undesired Power at most times. Reactive Heal is just auto cure pretty much. It is notable that she does have kind of, if you are doing benevolent love, this is a better counter for that, especially if you're stacking healing power in other ways. But I really like Hidden Resistance. I think for her maybe the most chance, 30% chance to counter is better than Reactive Heal. It decreases your chance of being targeted. One is kind of a funny, like, low amount, but actually much lower than I thought it would be. But the AoE resistance of 40 for one turn is also kind of useful. It just kind of keeps things from hitting her, and if they do hit her, they're hitting her with splash damage, which is that AoE resistance is really going to come in handy, hopefully. I mean, in that she is a support, and in that she might be healing, and like, this is why I don't like reactive heal on her as much. If you have her as a healer, this might actually be even more interesting, because if she's doing less damage, then she's going to be able to potentially maintain negative hate longer, which might actually make this counter even better, but not something I necessarily want to rely on. But again, she has 30 AoE resistance already kind of base at 140, so adding another 40 there, even without like vision cards that commonly bring in even more, you might be able to get her to 100% or close AoE resistance very easily. Looking at her skills, basic skill, chance to inflict confusion, we're going to see more ability to inflict confusion, but another 400% decreasing skill time activation. And we're also going to nullify Silence, Confusion, and Berserk. I don't like skills that do this kind of stuff, but these are very, very important statuses to deal with for a mage and for a healer. Like, this is an excellent, excellent set of nullifications. Yes, it is kind of niche, but it's just really good to have on a unit like this. And magic damage 20 for 3 turns is actually pretty good. So this really enables like some fast damage, but also kind of some insurance against some really nasty things that would prevent her from probably doing damage and especially healing. Recover is only single target in its first mode, but dual target, pretty good range. This actually might be, in a lot of cases, potentially even more applicable than a lot of AoEs, because you have just a ridiculous range apart that you can get, you know. As you can see here, like, one unit could be over here, one unit could be over here, you can be kind of in the corner. Like, there's just, as I usually say with these select target abilities, especially when they let you get out like a range of 4, these can have they can hit things 9 spaces apart from each other. Now it's only going to do 2, so, you know, especially in PvP situations, that's going to be missing 1 from a full AoE heal, but hopefully Rinoa is staying back and she's just healing the other 2. Hopefully she isn't necessarily taking damage. This is also increasing agility for 3 turns, which we'll be able to stack with haste, so that's actually quite good, in a way that kind of reminds me of Valis a bit. Twin Strike, another select 2 targets ability. This has a lot of damage on it. It actually has even more range, so the range on this is absolutely insane. And 100% hit chance, which is also great. Unfortunately, the skill is reflectable, but I don't know. You're probably not trying to run her into Celes, and I would imagine Celes would only cancel the one that was targeting herself, although it would be interesting to see someone test that. Quake ignores targets with float status, so even if you're floating, that is gonna... Oh no, wait. It will ignore you. So you can float above this. This is only going to damage units on the ground. Float is exceptionally rare. So while this does have a couple of places it's going to come in handy, a couple of units are going to dodge this skill more easily than others. Gilgamesh being the one that comes to mind, but also Sol coming into the future. This is going to do pretty good damage. Then, unfortunately, I wish it did this before. Decrease Earth resistance for 3 turns for targets by 30%, which is good. Cross-shape pattern, so kind of similar to Oberon's LP, but completely in Earth. Also, 25% chance to stun, which is quite good as well. And also kind of another thing that Oberon can do in his kit, but this kind of condenses both of those things down into one quite nicely. So this is actually a pretty good offensive skill. And then Time Accelerant is the upgraded job level 25 skill that gets upgraded into 140. So this is going to grant big haste 3 turns for ally not self, AoE resistance 25, 3 turns ally not self, and then haste for self and AoE resistance for self, but also decreased chance of being targeted 5. There are a lot of ways in which she can attack within this kit, so this is going to be helpful. Again, haste is going to stack with the double recover with the agility buff, so this is going to speed people up to begin with, and then she's going to speed them up even further in a way that stacks once they've started to take damage. So Rinoa is going to make people incredibly fast, and all of this comes from her, you know. Velis can also do this in that he has Stars of Swiftness, which is a, yourself and one more haste skill, just like Time Accelerant. In fact, Time Accelerant is absolutely Stars of Swiftness on all of the magical steroids. Just materia crammed up its butt until it just came. And this is at least somewhat comparable to Snow Healing, although it's a little difficult to compare to its fully upgraded form, and there is a little bit of difference between an AoE and a select 2 targets, especially when we're talking about PvE, when we can have a party of 5 that might potentially be getting hit by this skill. It also doesn't increase AP, but I do think that this is quite good, quite comparable, and remember we're talking about an Earth unit versus, a 90 cost unit versus a 100 cost unit, so big difference there. Although, hey look, there is an AoE heal, at least in the main sub, that is going to give AP for allies, so if you want to just get another way to heal for this girl, which is great. There's also Sorceress Dispel, which is a full dispel that is also going to remove Courage. Decent range. These are interesting. Since this isn't technically attack, this is, again, just a fully dispel. This isn't going to affect her hate, I think, so another way to kind of keep her hate low. Because other than that, she only has these 2 skills, and while they are, 3 offensive skills in her main job. And they're great, but it does make it easy for her to slip, potentially, especially with a sub-job like this, on her into a more supportive role. Sorry, yeah. I think Grimoire Keeper might be my favorite sub-job for her, though, but I was trying to figure out what the first part of the attritional protection effect did. Read it 3 times in a row, and like I was summoning Beetlejuice, my dogs started barking at me because they desperately needed to take a poop. So I had to take a little bit of a break, and it gave me time to think about it. So for her, it's going to allow her to decrease AP by up to 20. And it's going to give her this effect for 3 turns if the target of her attacks have Protect. Now, Protect is actually pretty common these days, and in fact, this skill is going to give her Protect as well. And additionally, it's going to give her defense debuff resistance, which isn't as important, but that's going to stack in with her protection to make her a nicely resilient unit or at least a bit more resilient of a unit. It's also going to give her another heal that is going to be around herself, and also an AoE skill that also does confusion, so this is a pretty good upgrade to her basic skill. And then finally, and the one that I think is probably my favorite, is the one that gives her a 7500 HP barrier while increasing defense for allies. I think this might be a really useful early game buff for her, because when don't you like for your support to have a 7500 HP barrier, especially when they have ways to decrease the amount of damage that they take even further beyond that. And then jamming thrust is pretty cool. And of course this Suna comes in handy sometimes in PvE content especially. But then we have finally the LB. This is a non-elemental limit burst, 69 AP, nice. 200% modifier, so not huge necessarily, but she is going to get 30% spirit penetration before dealing damage for 3 turns, and this could stack quite nicely with that passive. That's going to give her an additional 40. So even before equipment, you would have 70 for 3 turns after using the skill, and boy, it's going to slap a lot of people. And let me tell you, I didn't actually upgrade or get JP for my Rinoa, I don't know, until about 9 a.m. considering that I probably pulled her at around 7 a.m. So I was going through a lot of content with her, like grinding other things out for her. And, you know, she just has her basic attacks. And she's using this to wipe the field so often. Doing really basic quests like the Final Fantasy VIII, like first 10 early collaboration story mission type things. But she's just really consistently using this to wipe people off the board, and I love it. It's a really great kind of addition to her main kit, because with that, we have a good buff for herself. We have a really good herself and buddy buff that I really like the way that this is targeted. I also really like the way that this is targeted, and for fuck's sake, I like the way that this is targeted. I don't necessarily like that this targets herself in the same way that Stars of Swiftness does. Again, this is just upgraded Stars of Swiftness. But it does also kind of allow you to select 2 targets, but just not with the same ridiculous range, because they can only be within 4 spaces of each other. But we've got some really great, like, semi-time magey buffs and some nice healing, 2 options for healing. Although, Princess of the Resistance could add her a second one. And a number of really good... So she's gonna, and a number of really good offensive skills, especially like stuff that can deal with evasive units as well, and ones that can break resistance. So like she has kind of the bare bones version of what you'd really want in an offensive kit. She also has really good haste and kind of agility based quickening, kind of like time mage-esque, like main job time mage-esque buffs. A really, really solid, also time magey heal that I really love the targeting of, as well as just that bare bones offensive kit that really she doesn't need a lot, and this can be good on her. But I really think that like throwing some of this other stuff in here is really cool. I especially like these 2 buffs, but I really think that this one is probably the one that I would go for the most, because she does already have like a selfish buff that is okay, and maybe even preferable to that one. But also I would probably run her basic skill off for this build and just run Maddening Burst instead, just to give her the ability to do that in an AoE. Finally, let's talk about her necklace. I don't always like TMRs. You know, like I have my favorites. I have the ones that I've built, new TMRs. It takes a lot to get me excited. So does this one pass the sniff test? Well, decent start for Spirit. I don't like split stats like this. It's kind of unfortunate. However, I do think that this buff is really interesting because it is naturally going to target a tank, give it defense and single target resistance, especially like, so if we're thinking about like a tank that has initial hate, a tank that has passive hate, that's coming into a fight even before it's moved or casts a single skill, it already has hate. So this is going to get targeted for that. So you would want one, maybe for a unit that doesn't have a good defensive buff, or maybe an older unit that really doesn't have a way of buffing its single target resistance. You could throw those two things in here and then maybe use this to skip its own defensive buff, because this is going to be certainly more modernized and probably better than something like Sentinel. Like, just imagine Rinoa behind like Engelbert. You could turn off a skill like Sentinel that would buff defense and instead use this. Well, Engelbert doesn't have initial hate. I mean, you can give Engelbert initial hate. There are ways. You give him Vow of Love or something. Or a bow tie. You could give him a bow tie. That would be a terrible idea. He doesn't need less rage. He's already slow enough. But you could do something like that, and it would give them all of that, which would be good. But it would also give the caster 40% magic. So this would effectively allow you to, while neither of these buffs is necessarily massive by themselves, it kind of allows you to roll compress and buff two characters at once in a lot of ways. And, you know, if this allows you to skip something in their kit, if this allows you to maybe have like a tank that is able to get off Revitalize, or a tank that's able to get off an additional, like maybe you have a tank that has, for whatever reason, I think it's Noctis's Clothes, the Prince Garb offer like AP regeneration, but it's low, which is okay for a tank. They're not your DPS, they don't need a ton. But also protect, I think. So maybe, you know, you have a tank that doesn't have access to protect or single target resistance. You've got the protect on them through TMR, but now you have an extra buff that you have to work into their order. So you can turn off something like Sentinel, have the defense come in from Rinoa and last longer, but also give them a single target resistance, and give, well, it doesn't even have to be Rinoa, but you're going to want to use this on a mage. Also, it's an accessory, which is pretty helpful. So it's okay. It's a little bit specific, both for the character that wants to use it and the character that it wants to be used on. So like, it's kind of, it's for a team with a tank and a mage, which isn't every team by a lot of ways. But I would say that especially if you're looking to use maybe an older tank with a newer mage, this could be a really helpful one. And the fact that it's on a free unit could be really cool. Like, if this looks like your team, you know, tank, healer mage, support, and DPS, if you're running the good old 1, 2, 3 of RPG teams for your PvP, then this could actually be a really helpful buff, especially if you have initial hate. So while Engelbert wouldn't have that, someone like maybe Celeste doesn't either. I think King Mont does these days. You could also, by running the passive, you could have initial hate on Dwayne. Like, there's a lot of ways that you could go with this. But again, it is going to be on a particular type of team, and those teams do come and go in the meta. So while this is a pretty good TMR, I wouldn't say that it's for everybody, but it's certainly worth building for. It's pretty cool given that it's on a free unit like this. So, not bad at all. It's also worth pointing out that especially if you're maximizing Spirit, which also plays into the strategies of a lot of support units, by maximizing Spirits with your Trust Runes, you're also getting a Healing Power Up bonus, which is going to become really good synergy with the Magic Up for a healer. Like, both of those things are just going to drive your healing up into the stratosphere, at least for a while. So, while also providing you like defense against other mages. Which, again, tends to be a thing that units like this can build into. And, I mean, we're looking at, again, while looking at her stats, her attack type resistances aren't stunning. She is at least positive on the magical end of things. while most of her big negatives come in the arguably more niche areas of physical. I mean, luckily she's resistant to slash and to missile. Those can be really important for a unit like this. Pierce and strike are a bit more niche, although strike is certainly an important niche to be talking about right now. It does help her a little bit that she has resistance to Elia's element, but it's not going to help her a whole lot, especially given that there are a number of other good strike units that are wind. So she's really going to get fucked up by Edward or Tifa, that kind of thing. Like in the best girl fight, if it were to happen in this game between Tifa and Rinoa would probably get smacked around by Tifa pretty badly, just looking at her resistances. Anyways, she also might just nuke her as well. It's also worth pointing out that this is a glove unit, so there is a lot of potential for those of you out there who are playing with kind of the multi-elemental glove idea, especially people who built Addison Rae, because this is going to be a really interesting and powerful combo. I think if you have glove-based VCs, Rinoa and Addison Rae will be a great free combination together. So then you just kind of work in another glove unit. I mean, if you have Kefka, Roy, definitely not free, definitely very limited. Maybe you have Azoma, oh geez, even worse, and stuck at 120. What about Summer Helena? Okay, so finding the third unit for this, more the merrier. Ooh. Less limited, arguably, but still limited. Finding the third for this team might be difficult, but you do have two good free options, and for people who've really been waiting for Glove to kick it off, this is a really great healer to go with a really great supportive DPS. So really good combination together, and I think that Glove users are really going to have a good time playing with that. So, thank you for watching. That has been everything that I think you might need to know about Rinoa, and everything you might need to know if you should build her. I do think that she is basically required for the Earth element, in that she is a direct upgrade to Galzak, who was glaringly needed for the Earth element. She's also a really powerful Earth mage, and Earth magic synergies have been getting stronger and stronger recently, so this is a really important girl potentially to backbone an Earth magic team, which is looking for a more dedicated healer anyways, since really the only things that we have is stuff like Kilfei and Queen Ma Cherie, other than, again, an MR unit like Galzak. But there are probably a lot of other people who might be interested in this unit, and given that she is kind of a little bit more in the supportive territory, she might work a little bit better on a rainbow team than you might think. I mean, just in similar ways that people were using Lina outside of Wind, I think that Rinoa could also impact a number of teams outside of Earth, and maybe even outside of Glove. Although I think that her best rainbow potential is certainly within other Glove teams. So, anyways, thank you for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe, and check out that link in the description to see more of the Jackie Fox universe. Still working on getting the cover set up for the hardback copy of It Even Happens While We Sleep, but the paperback is now available on Amazon. The link for that will be a part of the link tree. You also get links to all sorts of places within the Jackie Fox media empire, other YouTube channels, podcasts, etc. Discord, all sorts of stuff. Come hang out. I've actually been super busy recently. Like, everybody in the house had to have a birthday like back to back, so I haven't had a ton of time. Also, this apparently is the vacation season. Cool, spooky vacation time. I will try to hang out more. I'm sorry that I haven't been on Discord as much, but if you want to join the Discord and at least talk to the people who are there, I promise I'll show up more. That link will also be within that Jackie Fox link tree. So again, it is the one-stop shop for all of your what's Jackie Fox doing on the internet needs. And with that being said, I will see you in the next one.